Aaron's heart started racing. He heard the sound of an animal chewing something behind the door. Seeing as it was his daughter's room, quiet rage and panic filled his nervous system. But Aaron knew he had to keep his cool in a dangerous situation. He pushed the door open and scanned the room with his pistol in his hand. But then, it was too late. He knew he was too late and that his life would never be the same again. Most families would agree that pets are an essential part of many childhoods. Growing up, it's important for a child to bond with a family animal, and the parents can also feel more at ease knowing that their child has a vigilant animal watching them. But most people get domesticated animals like dogs or cats. No one would ever dream of having a wild animal anywhere near their children. But what about if they force their way into that situation? Aaron Jameson didn't find the same charms of life as every other ordinary person who lived in his neighborhood growing up. He looked for adventure wherever he could, just so his life wouldn't be boring. This was mostly a good thing, but it was a detriment every so often. As an impatient 18-year-old, Aaron decided to do something his parents advised against. He enlisted in the British Royal Army. After years of service, he had seen a lot more of the world than just his town of Manchester. But that's what would give him a burning desire he couldn't shake. After leaving the army, Aaron decided to move to more adventurous landscapes. He soon found himself a job as the captain of an anti-poaching unit in Limpopo, South Africa. He got along well with his co-workers and managed to find a property to purchase. But that's when he met the love of his life and carved out real life for himself in the still somewhat foreign country. Aaron met a game ranger, Liza Van Wald, while on his regular patrol. The sparks flew instantly, and within the year they were married. But things would only get better from there. 2 years into their marriage, they had their special girl, Helen. Helen was their world. Now a toddler, they would do anything to protect her. But what happened when Aaron walked in on an unexpected scene that would have him worrying for the safety of his family? One day, while out on his daily patrols in the African bush, Aaron and his team would prove their usefulness. They tracked some poachers for miles until they caught up to them. They saw they had an animal tied up in the back of their pickup truck. Aaron wouldn't stand for that. And after they captured the poachers, the animal had to be kept under surveillance to make sure it would recover. Aaron loved animals and volunteered at his house, but he never could have expected that it would get out. Aaron was experienced with handling different types of animals. The animal this time was a female cheetah. She appeared to be in shock, so Aaron took her home for the night until they could get her to a vet that was dozens of miles away. He knew what kind of predator she was and put the frightened animal into a cage for the night. She'd be in the hall between his room and his daughter's, but if he knew what was going to happen next, he would have never volunteered. After putting the cheetah in the cage, he spent some quality time with his family. Liza cooked dinner, and the three of them spent an hour after their meal talking about their days. Then it was time for everyone to retire for the evening. Aaron put Helen to bed and joined his wife in their bedroom. They quickly fell asleep, but Aaron's peaceful sleep would be interrupted by a noise he wished he had never heard. Aaron shot up. His instincts from his military service kicked in, and he grabbed his firearm from the bedside table. He started methodically checking each corner as he crept toward the noise. When he got to the hallway, he looked towards the cage where he had put the docile cheetah. But when he arrived at the cage, he noticed something that made his heart sink and his body jump into action. To Aaron's horror, the cage that housed a small cheetah was now open and empty. He shuddered and thought about where the animal could be. He tried to keep his cool and act quickly. Then the unimaginable happened. He heard the sound again, and he could tell where it came from this time. It was inside his daughter's bedroom. Aaron's heart started racing. He heard the sound of an animal chewing something behind the door. Seeing as it was his daughter's room, quiet rage and panic filled his nervous system. But Aaron knew he had to keep his cool in a dangerous situation. He pushed the door open and scanned the room with his pistol in his hand. But then it was too late. He knew he was too late and that his life would never be the same again. Aaron saw the cheetah sitting in the middle of his daughter's room with one of her dolls in its mouth. She was chewing on it like a chew toy, and then he realized his daughter was sitting right next to her. But it wasn't a look of fear on his daughter's face. It was the look of pure, unbridled joy. She was actually playing with the wild animal. Aaron's mind flashed to what he had seen in the poacher's pickup truck earlier that day. Even though the female cheetah had survived the ordeal, her two cubs hadn't. She must have felt some motherly instinct and gone to check on Helen in the middle of the night. Seeing nothing more than a big kitty in her eyes, Helen just wanted to play with her. Aaron put his firearm away, and his harsh expression softened at sight in front of him. Aaron noted how incredibly gentle the cheetah was being with his daughter. He decided to check the file his headquarters attached to her cage. He read her history in the game reserve and found something incredible. The female cheetah had actually been hand-reared after her mother was killed by poachers. That must have explained why she seemed more domesticated than other big cats. After Aaron let the animal into his home and into his heart, he arranged for the cheetah to be allowed in the same game reserve region as he and his family. This meant that she was close to the house. After the arrangements were made, she would freely visit Aaron and his family when she wanted to. And he'd always have a cut of meat for her as he was responsible for feeding her.